My name is Teresa Hernandez. I'm innovation manager at the European Institute of Innovation and Technology in the vertical of manufacturing. And I'm also a climate activist. I really believe that we have a big challenge. And one of the actions that I have done in the past is that I've had architecture a vision for the future of the European manufacturing in 2030. In this work, what I did, I gathered a group of people, experts in manufacturing and climate. I put them all together, and we had a lot of really interesting discussions, and we came out with a kind of vision of what manufacturing should look like in 2030. And we draw that vision through 4 stories. And those stories were explaining the why, the what, the how, and the whom should be responsible of making that change. In those stories, we talk about the ethics, we talk about responsible leadership, about sustainability, of course, climate change, nice jobs, good environments for people in their offices, and a lot of other things. And as you might know, the name of this panel is, it's over there, is Net Zero Transformation Towards the Utopia. And this vision is a kind of utopia. And the reason I decided to push for this project was because I truly believe that having a positive vision guides humanity and guides people through the things that are right and moves to action. And when Miguel invited me to moderate this panel, he's sitting here in the first row, I thought it was very interesting because we were bringing here to the panel 3 amazing people, and they are working towards a vision like the one that we defined a couple of years ago. And I'm very glad to have them here. And I would like them first to introduce themselves. And I would like to start with Miguel Angel. And Miguel Angel is doing a very nice project called Enerfast that I think it's here in the back. You have a slide, and he will tell you a little bit more about it.
Thank you, Teresa. Yeah, well, I'm going to explain here only one example of one process we do, or one project in this case, but it's more in general about how we can, let's say, manage to reduce the carbon footprint or can be more energy efficient. In this case, I'm going to talk about Enerfast. Enerfast is a project that Tecnalia, we are a research center in the north of Spain, and we are working with 2, well, in this case, 2 small and medium enterprises in Italy. One of them is EFT, and with them, we are developing a process for the sintering of machines. Well, broadly speaking, for producing tools from powder. Normally, the non-conventional process is to press the powder and put this in a furnace during hours. And what we are trying to do is to do this in seconds. And to do that, what we put the powder inside a die, and we put electricity there. Then the process is much more efficient than the conventional process. And this is a way of producing or changing the rule about how we produce things. This is only one small example about what is possible to do in doing research with companies.
Thank you very much, Miguel Angel. So this is one example of action towards this future, but we also have here Alfredo. He represents plastic repair system, and I think this is a beautiful project that needs to really scale across all the world, and they are trying to do so.
Yeah, thank you, Teresa. Basically, we're tackling the climate change problem. So climate change is the most pressing challenge humankind has ever faced. In 2022 alone, 37.9 gigatons of CO2 were emitted to the atmosphere. Since the 1970s, more than 90% of the CO2 emissions have grown more than 90% each year. So we are plastic repair system. We're looking at, okay, how can we revert this? What can we do about it? So we're looking at the European scene, industrial scene, and we were looking that between 2 billion and 4 billion items, RTPs, are in the market. 10 to 15% of these RTPs break every year. So we're talking about hundreds of millions of RTPs, between 200 and 400 million. And what do we do right now? What do the industry do? They recycle. Yeah, very green, circular economy. Is this the most efficient way? We have proven that it's not, because with recycling plastic, per each kilo of plastic, there are 4 kilos of CO2 emissions to the atmosphere. And when we repair, things change. So what's our impact? We are cheaper, we're 70% cheaper than recycling, but more importantly, our footprint is much lower. It's about 311 times lower. Why? Because we have only 12 grams of CO2 emissions per kilo of plastic repaired versus almost 4 kilos of CO2 emissions for recycled plastic. So that's our main impact. We are now in a race against time. 2030 is a critical deadline, so we're trying to grow very fast. We're now having 4 plants in Spain, 1 plant in Mexico, 1 plant in Poland that we just opened, and we have a very aggressive growth planning to grow 15 more plants in 5 years. We're talking to the stakeholders, investors, users, to once you know about this, what are you going to do about it? How can we change this? We can follow the conversation with Teresa about this. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Alfredo. So this is a way to really reduce CO2 instead of recycling, going into repairing, which is much more efficient in terms of productivity, but not also productivity, but also CO2 emissions. And last but not least, here we should have Jerome, but she's not Jerome, of course, as you might see. She's Jasmine. She comes from a known group. Jerome couldn't make it at the end, so she has replaced it, and she's going to talk us about an ecosystem. So how an organization can gather an ecosystem together and make sure that fostering that ecosystem, they can provoke change. So, Jasmine?
Thank you. Thank you for the introduction. Actually, happy to be here and still to be able to represent Unknown Group. Unknown Group, we believe that founders are really the ones who are turning the challenges that we have nowadays into opportunities. And that's why we actually fuel founders to fix the future. But for actually founders to do that, we believe that they need mainly 3 things. They believe the industry to scale their solutions, but they also need, the right environment to thrive. They need to be in the right setting with the right people, and they also need the right mindset and the right skills. So that's why this translates into Unknown Group having 3 group companies through Unknown Solutions. That's where we really try to bring the founders together with the industry. With the spaces, we provide them the environment, so we bring the whole ecosystem together. And with the school, we provide them with the skills that they need. So, but of course, within this whole process and in this 3 group companies that we also have some challenges and solutions. So that will be also nice to talk about during this panel.
Perfect. Thank you, Jasmine, for your introduction. So now let's move on into this part where we discuss about certain topics. And at the end, you will have some time to ask some questions. We have now 20 minutes left, which is quite good. We were talking before, no? And we were thinking, when we were preparing this panel, we were thinking, well, what we should talk about, no? Because we are talking, we have a very interesting title, this utopian thing. How do we achieve it? Is it real? Is it not? So one thing that I wanted to bring to the panel and I wanted to ask them to tell about was what were the challenges they were facing while trying to address these super strong problems that we have in front of us and in our future.
Yeah, in our case, as we are trying to put, let's say, a new process in a conventional sector, for us, the main problem is to convince the final users that our product is at least the same quality of the previous one. Because even if you can have, let's say, research studies, you can do whatever the theoretical studies or even practical studies that the product is better, they need to see that in our own facilities. If not, it's impossible. If we are talking, for example, about cutting a stone, if you have not something proved in the stone they are using in the factory, it's nothing. You can say, in my lab is lasting 20% more and is 20% cheaper and is 20% less carbon footprint. It's nothing. If you don't go there and try and cut the right stone, it's nothing. And for us, it was and it is an important problem. This is the reason why we involve to end users within the project, and even having them is very good to have a continuous contact with them, knowing the problems that they can face, and trying to solve together or to develop the process together. If not, it's impossible.
Thank you, Miguel Angel. Yeah, it's true that we have seen it a lot, that one of the things that it's more difficult is change. And the main polluters or responsibles of polluters, they have also these pressing issues regarding to the growth, their figures at the end of the quarter, and convincing them to change and move towards to a different direction tends to be very difficult, because we have not the tools to make sure and ensure that the technologies are going to work at their space while they are tested in a lab, no? So, yeah, thank you very much. So what do you think, Alfredo? What are the main challenges you face while trying to scale your solution?
I totally feel you, Miguel. We've been there, but the problems don't stop there, because once you even have like this implemented in the industries, the more impact you want to have, you address the bigger organizations. But the problem is that the speed is very low. The decision-making process is just painful. If you want higher speed, you go to smaller organizations, but the impact is smaller. So we need a top-down approach. We need to change the way of thinking. We need administration involved heavily. Like we have right now a great regulatory frame with the Green Deal, but I think that should be reinforced. Because otherwise, we are in a race against time. We don't have the time. We have that luxury.
That's true. We don't have the time. And it's in those big dinosaurs, no, that or elephants that have been following a path for years and years, and they have made their way of working like systematic and very automatized. It's very difficult to engage a new piece, and it takes a lot of time. And I think it's true that we need to speed up those processes and put a little bit more pressure to them in order to accelerate the implementation of these solutions that can be very useful for industries. And what was your vision from the perspective of an ecosystem? What do you see?
Yeah, actually, it's from the ecosystem perspective, I would say it's not too different from what Miguel Angel and Alfredo have been saying. We really see that the challenge, it comes like, you have all these founders who have crazy disruptive solutions that you look at, and you know that that's a solution that is going to change. But the real problem, it comes when you go to scale. So the scaling part is really the most difficult, what we see. So we, of course, as a non-group, we try to bring these two parties together, so the startup side and the industry side together. But the main reason why the scaling, according, through what we see, why that is so difficult is, on the one hand, because very often startup solutions are partial, so they are not a complete solution, and therefore they need an integration with the industry. And then at the same time, the industry also needs the adoption of these solutions, so they need to be fully adopting it. And that's always, or very often at least, where the struggle really comes. And I think especially in the when it comes to manufacturing, it adds a layer of difficulty to it because of all the supply chain that is involved, right? So you have all these different actors that are connected in a whole supply chain that need to adopt the same solution. That's really where the scaling becomes very difficult from our experience, at least.
Absolutely agree. I have been here since yesterday, and I have walked around and I have seen amazing solutions in the booths, and I have spoken with very smart people, and all of them are trying to make a positive impact in the world, and they are trying to scale, but it's difficult, and probably they are facing the same issues that you are facing. And I go now to Bill Gates, and he has this book, the climate change book that he wrote in 2021, I think, or so. And he was explaining that at least 50% of the technologies that can address the climate change have been already discovered, designed, and tested. The difficulty is implementation. So now it goes, my next question is, what do you think that we could do to accelerate the implementation of these solutions and technologies in the big players, in the big industrials?
Yeah, with the big industrials is difficult. Yeah, I completely agree what Alfredo said before. Because if you are only with small companies, the impact you have is lower. You have two possibilities, or have a lot of small companies doing the same, what we call the critical mass. I mean, you have a critical mass pushing in the same direction. Probably you have a change. And the other one is the big player. With the big players, probably we need more things. Regulatory issues for sure are critical. If they are pushed, for example, to change to or to avoid critical materials or whatever, if there are some pushes from the government or from general policies, that probably this will help in changing things. It's not with players is more complicated than with small ones for sure.
So governments and general policies, for instance. So Jasmine, for instance, what do you think?
I think, at least from our perspective, so a ecosystem perspective, really where the point where the solution would lay is really about the type of commitment. So what we see is that, especially in the industry level, you have business units who have goals when it comes to innovation that relate to cost reduction and to effectiveness. And if you look at the adoption of disruptive technologies, very often that's not the same goal, because the same goal, if you are trying to make your industry greener, then that's not going to be by definition a cost reduction, right? So that's really where if when you are able to align those two goals, that's where we think really the implementation can break through. And that's really where also we try to as a non-group to work. And another side of the coin is really the investment side, I think, as well. So where really the industry together with the other players can invest, because that's the commitment that you show, and that you can break through the innovation.
Perfect, great. So now here we have the investment, of course, which is quite relevant to accelerate and allow these organizations to live. And then this alignment between green and costs, because if it's expensive, it's very difficult for industry to really adopt the solution. But I think Alfredo has had this challenge, which they have a cheaper solution with cool benefits, and they are not even able to really push, not all the times, but in some cases it's becoming very difficult to really convince at the end.
Here's the thing, we are quite successful. I mean, I won't complain. I mean, in general, I was estimating that some solutions would take 3 years, and in 18 months we're doing it. It's fast, relatively speaking, but it's not fast enough if you look at the global context, right? If you look at it, I mean, I think that a top-down approach is needed. Like, if you look in terms of decision-making, right? I mean, you look at Eastern countries, like Asian countries, they're great, and they're fast, implementing very quickly. And Western countries, we are kind of slower. I mean, we're kind of more loose cultures, more individualist cultures, while Asian are more like collective, and they're able to implement quicker things. And here we're in a critical situation where we need a quick change and drastic change. And I think that this is also been seen in innovation. We have going through a huge technological breakthrough, changes, a revolution actually. And big companies are struggling to keep up with this. And startups are winning the war. Why? Because they're more flexible, quicker making decisions. Big companies are trying to do that. And I think that this is just a matter of survival, whether for business or for us as a species. So.
Absolutely. And I would like to add another dimension, just to wrap up and allow the public to ask questions. I'm always been a great believer of the social movements, and also this both top-down approach is okay, but also how can social movements can force these big decision makers into the right direction, no? Or how can they push them? And when I'm speaking about the social movements, I'm not talking about like violence, of course, but I'm trying to talk about non-violent social movements. And I'm an advocate of this type of activism, and I truly believe that they can bring us an added value that nobody has been able to tackle yet. So the actions that Greta did a few years ago were very interesting in the sense that they raised awareness worldwide on a very dangerous issue. So at the end, I believe this could be also a power of or a tool to make this change happen. I don't know if there's anyone in the audience that would like to make a question or has any curiosity or
Maybe is there anyone who is a founder between the public? There we have. Do you agree with anything that was said here? Maybe you want the microphone.
do you want to come and share your Yeah?
You're the only one. You're the
Yeah.
only founder in the room. So
I agree so far. Well,
Okay.
nothing to
Okay.
add. Okay.
I
Okay, so we have 7 minutes more, so maybe we can use the reserve question. We were talking about utopias, and do you think that we will be able to reach the goals that have been proposed in the previous years? Like I don't know, by 2030, net zero, or 2050, or this is not something that is going to happen. How do you see the future from your perspective?
Well, I think that following the title of our talk, we need to be positive and we need to think that we are going to do positive things. I think that in the past, if we think in industry, I'm more in the metal industry. If I think how some companies were 20 years ago when I started, and I see how they do things now, they change a lot. I think they can change probably faster than they do, but there was a change, and there was a changing mentality. If you were thinking, if 20 years ago I was talking to some of the foundries in our area about changing materials and putting some technologies inside, they will say, no, this is for science, come on, go and publish something there. But nowadays they are taking this seriously. I think they are putting more attention on this because they know a change will come. And I think we need to be positive, and we need to think that things will be changed for sure.
That's a very good point. We sometimes tend to forget what happened in the past and where we were, no? And we tend to look to the future and say, why we have a super high goal to achieve, and then we forget that we have already achieved a lot of things. Thank you. And what do you think? Do you think we will achieve our goals? We will stay in the middle? We will just crash the planet? What will happen?
Well, we have to try. That's for sure. I think that it's good to have like some sort of critical thinking and look at the threats. At the same time, I was like listening to this like podcast and saying how, bad news get like viral very quickly and has an effect in the psychological, at the end, economy is all about human cycle. And I think that this is a double-edged sword. I do believe that we have the means. And I'm a big believer in the human capacity to solve problems. I think that we need a strong leadership. I'm a big fan of like moonshots, as we mentioned yesterday in our conversation. We have the technology. And if we set some tangible, aggressive goals using and developing new technology based on the technology we already have, we have a good chance to do it. I mean, there's this like AI implementation of quantifying how much CO2 is in the atmosphere, how many trees are needed, where you can plant them. So we have all this information tangible, something that we didn't have before. And like this, we have many other technologies and possibilities. It's a question of like implementing them. And again, it comes down to strong leadership and decision making.
Yeah, for sure. And it was a very good conversation. We talk about also utopias and dystopias, and it's true that we need positive stories and we need hope, because otherwise, if you once you get a lot of bad news and you see a lot of dystopian films, then your mind gets into a mindset of being paralyzed. And when you see something that it's positive, that can bring value, that can be more beautiful, well designed, then this, I guess, at least it fosters action. So yeah, that's true. Looking at the past and having a bright future in front of you, it's always much better than thinking that we have done nothing and at the end, and that we have a terrible future in front of us. So we need to have hope for sure. Thanks, Alberto.
Well, I think adding to, the previous 2 points, so positive and, the kind of mindset that you bring, I think there's one element as well that can combine it as a, way to move forward. And that's really to act together. And I think very often that's what, you tend to forget, because you look at what you can call, the bad guys and the good guys. But then at the end of the day, to really go beyond known, you need everyone at the table. So even if the bad guys are sitting at the table with you, that it means that they want to change something. And change will just require all of us to do it together. So I think besides, having the positive mindset and really making sure that on a global level, we don't look at things in a negative way, we also need to just have everyone involved.
Sure. Thank you very much, Jasmine. It's true that collaboration is going to be key in addressing all the challenges we are facing. We're almost done. I only can thank you very much for being here, for have traveled from far away to stay now at this stage. I think it has been a very interesting conversation, and here we are. We are done. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.